Well, for me, it's getting up to speed on planning and getting ready for training camp. That's what we've spent the last couple of days on, in terms of working together. But I think that planning part is important, but we've also had some real good discussions around strategy, vision, where the team's at, what our plans would look like evolving into the season. And as I mentioned, they've been real good, they've been real productive. But for me, I've said a couple times over the last few days, and it's been like drinking out of a fire hose a little bit here. So just continuing to grind away and get up to speed in a lot of areas.
I think just for me, for job one, just getting to know Al, just understanding his vision of the team, understanding where we want to go. I think with the current staff we have in place, I think we've all been on the same page of where we're at, and now just hearing Al's new ideas and how he's going to put his fingerprints on the hockey club is very exciting for me. And so I think relationships is the number one thing of this job, so just getting to build a relationship with me and him so we can get this thing right.
And I think we have a high priority too to round out our coaching staff with the hiring of another assistant coach.
Brad, what does this mean to you as a Regina guy to be the head coach of Regina Pats VP? You probably went to games growing up and watching.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's something that I've wanted to have for the last 8 years. I've been, biding my time, working under great coaches to have this opportunity. But obviously, being a hometown person, it's the gift and the curse sometimes. It's something that's so special when you're winning and you have so much support and friends and family. Sometimes when you're losing, it can be a small place to live, but that's the great part of this job and this career is the highs and lows of it. And I think for me, just being a hometown and having family and friends who don't care about the wins and losses, being there for support is something that's very special.
And he's going to have to talk to Pritch about more comp tickets all the time.
Brad, how would you describe your coaching philosophy?
I think their coaching philosophy just kind of goes back in the identity you are as a person. I think you have to be authentic. I think you have to be who you are, and who you are comes out in your hockey team. And so for me, I'm a very competitive person. I try my best in every single possible thing I can do. So I believe in our hockey team, you're going to see a very competitive group. And, we are where we are right now. And but with the players, their effort is going to be something that I think is going to be on the forefront every night.
Brad, when you got hired in 15, in that conversation with John happened, is this where you saw it eventually going? Way back then, did you have that vision for a day like this?
Well, one thing in hockey I do know is things change every 12 hours. So what team you end up on but I knew this was part of my coaching career. I knew that I wanted to be a head coach, and the biggest thing for me was doing it the right way. Other opportunities come about where I could have fast-tracked a few things, but I wanted to make sure I knew what I had in front of me with working with a person like Dave Struch and John Paddock, that learning what I could learn from them was invaluable. So I wasn't in a rush, and obviously being my hometown was easy to stay home, I guess would say. But yes, this is definitely somewhere I wanted to be one day.
How do you manage, say, day one of training camp and the season gets going, how do you manage the role of getting promotion? And John's legacy, obviously, do you push that aside and try to put your own stamp on this team? Or do you bring forward John's legacy and his coaching tactics kind of into your role as part of your own?
Yeah, great question. I think for me, the biggest thing is just being myself. I'm not John Paddock. I'm not Dave Struch. I'm not Alan Millar. So I think for me, the great thing here I've had the last few years is having some of those responsibilities in which you talked about and having to plan for those events. So I feel like I have the experience in it. But for me, I'm definitely going to take everything I've learned from those guys. But I'm Brad Herauf. I'm not those guys, so I'm going to be myself.
You go from being the assistant where you usually the cop to now you're head coach to being that cop. Is it the relationships with the best players can be pretty important how to kind of get the sense of
Yeah, I think that's one way of looking at it. For me, once again, it just comes back to I don't think I'm a good cop, bad cop. I think I'm a person that's going to tell you the truth. And I think that I build relationships with people so I can tell them the hard truths. You know, we're in a performance-based business, so there's performance that goes along with trying hard. So I think with me, I think the biggest thing is just being myself. That.
And I would add something to that too. That would, you know, and today's game is different. The time of the bad cop and you know, it's changed. Athletes are different in terms of how you interact with them, and anybody that's going to be a successful head coach at any level has to get to know their players. They have to build relationships with their players. It's probably one of the most important things that they need to do. The times of screaming and yelling and throwing Gatorade jugs around the dressing room is long gone, and I think that's an area that Brad has a real good footprint on with his players, and he will take that to another level as head coach. There's certainly a time and place to challenge the players, but I like. You know, I like what I've seen in terms of the relationships he's built with our players so far.
Al, was it an extensive search for head coach, or was Brad pretty early on the guy you feel?
Yeah, Brad pretty early on was the guy, and you know, I think that through the process, and the process started quite a while ago. You know, we talked about that communication with John in April when I was away in Switzerland. And, you know, first and foremost, I've, you know, had respect for Brad from a distance in terms of what he's done here and my dealings with him on the Pat Cs. You know, there's still lots for him and I to do together and get to know each other in terms of, and that process is in the minute and will be ongoing, and I look forward to that. So there was some history there, but at the same time, and I talked about, you know, I talked about John and Brad and the discussions I had with John and you know, what he thinks of Brad and what he thinks of Brad's potential as a head coach, and there was a connection of trust and loyalty. And when I talked to John about Brad and when Brad talks about John, and it impressed me. And so at the end of the day, in dealing with, you know, ownership, Pritch and Paddock, it was a pretty easy decision to move forward.
Al, you've built really good teams. Brad, you've been on coaching staffs, really good teams. What is the Pats ingredient that's missing to get back on another long playoff run that fans have been kind of waiting for since the Memorial round?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think there's anything right now that I would get into specifically in terms of any ingredients that are missing. Again, I've talked about this a little bit going back to the press conference the other day. You know, I've still got some work to do in terms of getting to know this group, getting to know what we have, and looking at those plans and strategies in terms of, you know, what we want to do this year. But it's not a one-year plan; it's a 2, 3, 4 year out plan. You know, we want to talk about getting to the highest level, and it may take time for us to get to that level. But until I have a much better understanding of the team that we have here, the players we have here, get a good idea on our prospect pool, I'll leave that to another time and place to discuss.
Well, I don't know if you want to speak on this, but what are you looking for in an assistant coach? Younger guy, older guy, more experience? Is there sort of a mix that you're looking for, or is that?
I think the biggest thing for us is finding the best person possible. Al talked about just the kids, the way they learn now. You need to be able to be a teacher. You need to actually know your stuff. You need to be able to work with video. You need to find ways to connect with kids, and just by telling them sometimes isn't going to be able them to go out there and execute it. So finding ways, being a problem solver, and being a teacher, you know, at the highest points for me. You know, obviously being part of a staff, being able to work with us. I think we're a real easy staff to work with, to get along with. So hockey is a real fun place to work in. So you need to be able to all get along and challenge each other and have those honest conversations. But for me, it's just being able to teach is a big thing for me.
So Ken and Waffle are coming back. Is that the plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Good? Okay, thanks, guys.
Great. Thank you.